Hello, welcome to Fox's Sake. This is the preview. It's Rob Hayes, Joe Heley, and Tom Strangward with you. I've tripped over my words there at the beginning because I got so blown away by Pete Selby's brand new intro. Just a little bit of housekeeping, fellas. I've got a bit of echo in one of your. I think it's you, Joe, because Tom's just muted himself, and I think we're all right on that end. Just a little bit of echo. There's proof that For Fox's Sake is absolutely live this evening.
Is that any better?
Let's give that a go. Yes, 100% better. There we go. Brilliant. Can you still hear us, Joe? Yes, you can. Excellent. Right, we're talking about the M69 derby, and we'll get to that in a second. Just a reminder, for foxsake.news, you saw it there on our brand new intro titles, is our brand new website. It launched 15 days ago. It is just over 2 weeks old. Myself, Pete Selby, and Andy Moore working day in, day out on creating a website that brings a range of content for Leicester City fans, young and old, fans of the women's team, fans of teams from the 70s, 80s, 90s to now, with loads and loads of great stuff on there already, loads more to come. So for foxsake.news, if you haven't seen our website yet, please do check it out. Subscriptions are a very, very reasonable £5 a month. The cost of a pint, and ultimately, if you're doing dry January like me, you're saving those fivers on the pints. You might as well spend them on a membership and a subscription to For Fox's Sake. Joe's clearly not on the dry January. You will also see soon, Joe, we've got you lined up for a fan article as well. I know that. So we've got contribution from myself, Pete, and Andy, our fans as well, but also from other fans. We don't just want it to be our three opinions. Now, usually I start the preview with a question of optimism or pessimism, but I know for a fact that all three of us are going to be hugely optimistic, given the fact that Leicester have won 2 games in a row and kept a clean sheet last weekend for the first time since September. So I'm not going to bother with that question. I'm going to come in with a different opening question, and we'll go Joe first. Does the M69 derby actually exist? Is it a thing? Do you care?
Well, absolutely. I'm from Hinckley. I mean, it's the biggest one for me. So yeah, I know the chant goes, we hate Forest, we hate Derby, we don't care about Coventry or something like that, but I sure as hell do. It's a big one for me. Certainly growing up in Hinckley, when I was a kid, it was you either supported Leicester or Cov, and judging by some of the terrible banners that go up and all that sort of stuff, yeah, I think the rivalry's getting fiercer all the time. So yeah, I have a little bit of a problem with that chant, because for me, it's probably the biggest one.
Tom, it's a big one for Joe. Do you concur with those thoughts, or are you a little bit more reserved on the rivalry?
Oh no, I care. I care about it. I think any opportunity to care is a good thing, particularly when it's a side that thinks they've got something to prove against us. Obviously, we've been brought down a couple of pegs of recent years, so we've got a point to prove. They've got a point to prove, and absolutely.
Yeah, there's a couple of there's my preview article's gone on for foxsake.news this afternoon, posing that question, but in a gentle way. But tomorrow morning, there's a post, an article going on from Andy, who has tried to take a sort of broad scope of opinion from a few Leicester fans, a few Coventry City fans, and put all that together and had a look at sort of the rivalry over the years and whether it's getting stronger and stronger, like Joe says. So check out that tomorrow morning. That's going live on the website for foxsake.news. So plenty of conversation around the rivalry. Let's get on to the pitch then, in terms of Leicester City. Tom, your little tagline there says "Play the kids, Marty," and we saw a few of them against Cheltenham last weekend. Now let's caveat this by saying Cheltenham Town are not a fantastic football team, and we only beat them 2-0. But I guess the question for us to talk about in terms of team selection is, did anybody for you, Tom, last weekend do enough getting into the cup side to keep their place for the resumption of the league season on Saturday?
Yeah, from me and my perspective, I'm probably a little bit more cavalier about playing the kids, particularly around the idea of having a development season. So I'm always kind of looking for that and pushing for that as much as possible. I think if you were to be a little bit more even-handed about it, you could possibly say that Badialuko and Louis Page made a real claim to be able to potentially get a start for this match. Certainly Badialuko, I think, had a really good game, and I think offered us a lot in terms of energy and pressing and moving forward, and potentially could be a solution in that right-hand position that could start to solidify a bit of the defense, because it has felt at times like we're still looking around for what our best 11 is moving forward. I still don't think Marty's really found the solution for what could hopefully ride out to be a successful season. So for me, that's a position of great interest.
Joe, anybody stand out for you against Cheltenham that you think deserves to get the nod on Saturday?
Yeah, I think I'll echo on the Louis Page thing. I think he's looking good actually, and he's looking tidy footballer, and I want to see him get more and more minutes. Really, I mean, it's a shame that he's the one person he's got to sort of displace is Bobby Dakova-Reid, who's been one of our better players in the last sort of 2 months, I suppose. But yeah, I want to see a lot more of him. And when you think he's only 17, and you've got the sort of conversation there has gone from Monga to Louis Page, I think, really. If he starts getting a goal or two, then it'll be really staking a claim. The one thing that was a bit of a shame with Cheltenham, whereas we didn't get Jake Evans on the pitch. Why, I don't know. That's always confusing with Marty when you're I don't know what time it was, 3-0 up, but he certainly could have had a few minutes. And I do also want to see, I think his surname's Hutchinson in the 18s. He's banging them in for fun as well. So with the striker position, I'd like to see some of the youngsters get a chance. But it was a really nice performance on Saturday, and Steffi Mavididi coming into his own again is really great to see, causing problems. I mean, he was a real class above everyone else on the pitch at Cheltenham, and if he can find some form and do his thing, that'll go a long way, particularly against Cov.
Yeah, Mavididi is an interesting one because, and again, I've done an article on it on this week comparing him and Fatawu, not to each other, but to themselves this time 2 years ago. I got right stuck into a stats hole, which is not, it's very much not like me. It's normally a Pete Selby and an Andy Moore thing, that is, but I spent a long time looking at the stats and the numbers that they've posted this season compared to 2 seasons ago. You can see that now on forfoxsake.news. And I said in my sort of introduction to that article that when we started this championship season, we kind of thought, all right, there's a lot of unrest in the supporters. We're not sure what's going on off the field. And there were some big departures in the summer. But the fact that we started the season with Mavididi and Fatawu, who were so clearly stood out as 2 of the best wingers, if not the 2 best wingers in the championship 2 seasons ago, I think we all thought that those 2 almost alone would be able to drag us into a position where we were contending for a playoff place. And Fatawu statistically is pretty much as good as he was 2 seasons ago, is having as much of an impact, and I would argue probably even more of an impact given that he's started every single game for us this season and hasn't had other players performing as well around him. So we've had a lot, he's carrying a lot more on his shoulders this time around. But Mavididi statistically is contributing half the amount that he did in terms of goals and assists per minute than he was 2 seasons ago. And I didn't count the Cheltenham stats in that mathematical equation because I don't think getting a goal and assisted against a League 2 side when you've only got 2 of each across the rest of the season, I don't think that's fair. It would have skewed my numbers a little bit, and I wanted to have a little bit of a dig at him. But, Tom, Joe's alluded to it there. Having Mavididi and Fatawu in form at the same time for a sustained period of time is absolutely crucial to Leicester finding a way to string together a few results and climb up the table.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, realistically, our squad is relatively threadbare. I think if we had the opportunity to make moves in the market to reinforce those positions even, I think we'd still do it. But they are quality. And we saw from Mavididi in the FA Cup, when he's on it and he's feeling confident and he's running directly to his fullback and taking them on, that's when we see the best out of him. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that. And hopefully he's finding a bit of a purple patch in terms of helping get involved in the game and goals and assists and things like that. Fatawu is a tricky one because I still don't feel like he's playing well. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that about the stats, Rob, but for me, I felt like he's been a little bit beneath his level, if I'm honest. Full credit to him. I think he's banging in world-class goals, which is a strange position to be in because you're saying, well, how can somebody be doing these incredible things, but also not be playing their best? But it does feel a little bit like we have more to expect and hopefully more to come from Fatawu. I think that strategy moving forward, hopefully will put us in good stead. Kind of relates back to what we were just discussing before about having enough squad players with experience and a little bit of sprinkling of kids for the energy and enthusiasm to be able to push them forward and challenge for those positions. And if we can keep these key players fit, like Mavididi and even like an Oliver Skipp, who I think deserves an honourable mention from my perspective, at least for his performance in the FA Cup, just quietly going about business and hopefully starting to build a bit of a rapport with one another. Once we start to bring people into that side to reinforce those positions, hopefully we can kick on.
Let's have a look at the team news. Then we've discussed sort of a few players that may have staked a bit of a claim in the FA Cup game at the weekend. Yannick Vestergaard went off in that game with an ankle injury, but Marty Cifuentes has confirmed today that he will be fit and available for Saturday lunchtime, which is good given that we've booted out Wout fast, not necessarily on a permanent deal like most of us would have wanted, but at least on loan with an option to buy. So hopefully over the next few months, he sort of masquerades as a half-decent footballer, and then they want to take him off our hands for good, which would be a real bonus. But it did, if Vestergaard was injured for a couple of weeks, it would just have left us with a Coley and Nelson. But so there's a sort of trio of choices at centre-back with Vestergaard back. Some great news, which is going to please every For Fox's Sake listener and viewer, and definitely please Joe and Tom, is that Boubakary Soumaré is fit and available and ready and raring to go against Coventry. I mean, I preferred the news that I heard about him a couple of days ago, which was linking him to a few different clubs. I've got to be honest. I mean, there's absolutely no way, Joe, that Soumaré comes back into the midfield on Saturday, having not been in since November, and with Skipp and James playing well, playing really well. But is Soumaré a player that you would want to see out the door, maybe try and grab a couple of million for him before his contract's up? Or do you think he still might have a part to play?
Yeah, you want to bet he doesn't turn up on Saturday? Marty seems to have a soft spot for him. As do we all on the preview. He's been spoken about many times. I mean, I'm very hopeful. The reason he might get on the pitch, and I will look at it positively and hope that they're putting him in the shop window. Basically, that would be the only reason. Or if you know, I think Ollie Skipp's knackered or whatever. I think that might be the reason we see him. I would hope, but you know, who knows? As I say, Marty seems to have this strange soft spot for him. I mean, he was a lot of money, that guy, wasn't he? And he was meant to propel us up, you know, to really crack into the European places and the Champions League places. He was one of those kind of signings that goes down in the complete disaster book of a few seasons ago. So, yeah, see you later, mate. I made a chant for him at one point. When you have the ball in play and you give it away, that's Soumaré.
Big fan. Big fan of that. I love that. Tom, I guess the issue, though, with Soumaré is the fact that you mentioned it a few moments ago, that Leicester don't have the financial firepower to do a huge amount of business in this window. And central midfield, we're not exactly blessed with options because Harry Winks is very much out in the cold. I really hope he gets moved on, because not necessarily if his attitude might be causing problems at the club, but financially, the amount of money he's getting paid every week, we need to get him off the books ASAP. But, you know, if Samari was transferred out as well, you're very, very limited in terms of your central midfield options. And Cifuentes has kind of hinted at the fact that he sees Louis Page as more of a central midfielder than a number 10, or at least that's kind of what I've gathered from it, given that he kind of has mentioned that Bobby De Cordova-Reid is the only natural number 10, and that Leicester are very actively seeking another attacking midfielder, especially with Ramsey out for a little while longer. So it almost might be a case of, look, to shift Samari in this window would take quite a lot of effort, and you'd only get a couple of million for him. So maybe, because you already know his strengths and limitations, you might be better off just keeping him for the rest of the season as backup in case Skip or James get injured, and then waving him goodbye out of the free transfer in the summer.
Yeah, to be a fly on the wall for those discussions would be really interesting. I mean, if Samare moves on, is Winks going to come back? There's no chance. There's just no chance. And that would leave us really, really short. Samare seems to be linked every time with Monaco or an Italian club, and every time they come sniffing, but he never actually goes. So my money's on him staying. And I think Marty will probably bring him in at some point. He seems to have a real soft spot for him. And just this, I mean, I think this is the thing that's so frustrating with Marty, is there's a lot of us that want change to happen more quickly with team selections and whatnot. And he seems to constantly want to revert back to this old guard and bring in these tried and true players. And fair enough, there's an argument for that. But I do think Louis Page seems to be a player that Marty wants to play more in the middle of the park, and then use Ramsey and Bobby De Cordova-Reid in the 10. So, I mean, that seems to be the way it's going. I'm not totally confident that we won't see a Samari appearance.
I think we will. For fuck's sake, Andy Moore is watching along live. Evening, Andy. He's watching along on X. He says Evans and Hutchinson need a chance before the end of the season, echoing what you were saying a few moments ago, Joe. And I guess just to pick up on your point there about Jake Evans, we've only got 2 strikers at the minute. I know Silko Thomas has had a game there and has come off the bench a couple of times to play higher up through the middle. Bobby De Cordova-Reid has played in virtually every position in his career, including up front. But at the moment, you've only got Patson Daka and Jordan Ayew. Now, Patson Daka is, believe it or not, is in absolutely prolific form. He's got 1 goal per month for the last 3 months. He has scored in November, December, and January. Granted, December was for Zambia, so it didn't really help us. But, you know, this is the best form he's been in years, genuinely. And Jordan Ayew, he's a bit of a sort of divisive character among the fans. I mean, the guy's the captain of his international team. He's vastly experienced, hundreds of Premier League appearances, 5 goals, not taking the world by storm. But, you know, those are your 2 forward options. Carranza has, thankfully, his poor, disastrous loan spell ended at the beginning of the transfer window. So, you know, Jake Evans missed out on playing for the under-21s on Friday night. And when we saw that squad was announced, we were fingers crossed it's not an injury and that he's being picked for Saturday against Cheltenham. And then, like you said, didn't even get used off the bench. Now, I don't see the point in taking him along to Cheltenham, especially when we were so comfortable in the second half. The onslaught didn't come. It was never going to come. That's the time when you put Evans on, not Jordan Ayew. And this is kind of adding on to your point, Tom, as well, about Cifuentes being so stuck in his ways in a lot of different areas tactically in terms of personnel as well. And yeah, I mean, if we don't get a striker in the window, Joe, are you happy with bringing someone like Evans or Hutchinson in who are scoring goals in the younger age groups and giving them a go? Ultimately, we're not going to have a choice if Daka and Ayew, one of them gets injured or something. But are you happy with the depth there?
I mean, I'd be happy if I thought for 1 second they'd get any minutes. But you know, like I'll send Marty a message and say, look, I'll do it for $5,000 a week. You know, I'll sit on the bench and I can come on, you know, for the last 5 minutes. I'm a big boy. Stick me up front, no worries. It's about what Julian Carranza did for us. Yeah, if I thought he was going to get, I mean, what this is, I think all of us have said this, and the fans, it's a bit of a weird one, you know. Why are you bringing on Jordan Ayew against Cheltenham? What benefit does anyone get out of that? Even Jordan Ayew himself on his like 900th career game or whatever it is, he comes on for a few minutes. You know what? You just, if ever there was a time that he was going to play him, it was then. If he was ever going to bring Jake Evans on. So yes, I would be happy with giving that, particularly those two. Like I say, Hutchinson's doing well as well, but both of them seem to be scoring in their respective leagues well. But I just don't trust that Marty will do it, even if it ends up that way, which is a shame, really. He seems to not want to do anything with the young strikers, which is incredibly frustrating because you've got Patson Daka that can't finish, and you've got Jordan Ayew who can't run. You know, every time someone puts a through ball for him, and you're just looking at him like just plodding after it. He's no Jamie Vardy in that respect. So yeah, we're desperate for a striker. Everyone knows it. If he was going to give the young guys a go, it would have been Saturday.
Rob, can I throw a question out to you both?
Yeah.
What do you think the reason is that we haven't seen Evans? Do you think it's a trust issue at this point?
I think it's got to be a developmental thing, because you know some players who play well in the age groups don't, just for whatever reason, aren't quite ready for men's football. I think the best example in Leicester's history over the last few years is Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, who didn't break into the Leicester first team until 22, 23. At that point, if you've got a player that's come through the academy who's been out on a few loans, who's been playing well for the under 21s or under 23s, as it probably would have been in Dewsbury Hall's time, you're thinking by the time he gets to 20 something, you're thinking, right, well, he's not going to make it at this level. You're thinking, right, he's one of them that comes up through the academy, load of promise, and then ends up spending his career in League Two or something, which, I mean, still gets a career as a footballer, don't get me wrong, but Evans is also very, very young, and I know we're also talking about people like Monger and Page, but, you know, Louis Page looks about 10 years older than he actually is in terms of his attitude, his physical attributes, and Jeremy Monger, although the fans would argue at the moment he's quite lightweight, and I think probably over the next 4 or 5 years you'll see him put on a bit more in terms of muscle and power. He's still not afraid to be bashed about by championship fullbacks. It may well be a case that, you know, Jake Evans as a teenager is being protected from the sort of stereotypical championship centre back, if you like. That, I mean, that's my take on it. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
I thought it must be that he's just too maybe he's just getting bashed about in training, you know, and Marty's thought, actually, you know, but then he has got a Premier League appearance. I think Rube played him, so that was, you know, a year ago or something like that. So it's a bit confusing.
It's just a bit strange that you obviously didn't play the game before the FA Cup in the youth squad, and then it seemed to line up like as if he was going to feature, but then never did. Do you know what I mean? It's like you would still expect him to play in his youth game, even if he was just going to sit on the bench, and that was the plan, just to get experience. But
yeah, and if you've got absolutely no intention of using him, then let him play for the under-21s on Friday night, and don't bother taking him. I don't subscribe to the fact with Evans, who's been in and around the senior squad on match days previously. I don't subscribe to the idea that taking him down to Cheltenham for the experience of just, getting used to an away day with the senior team and going through the warm-ups. I don't subscribe to that at all. I don't think that he needs that. It's not like he's been plucked from the under-18s and has never played a minute of senior football or has not been around the squad. I get the impression that he's training with the first team on a very regular basis and has travelled as part of the match day squad a few times. It's not like he just did it for that kind of experience, because and the reason I'm bringing that up is because Ben Nelson did an interview this week saying that when he was 16, he got taken away to a Europa Conference League game in Ukraine, and that was good for his development. And I totally get that, because at that time Nelson hadn't been around any senior teams, he hadn't made any senior appearances, not made any match day squads. That fine, and it's a different experience as well, because it's an abroad away trip rather than getting on a team coach for a couple of hours down to Cheltenham. So I don't think it kind of been that. Maybe I don't think it was not the kind of game that Evans could have come on in, because we were very, very comfortable. Very, very interesting one. We're very quickly running out of time, as we always do on the preview. Just one last thing on the striker chat before we have a quick look at Coventry. Paolo's saying, in Brazilian football, a striker is called a goal man, and Daka is anything but a goal man, scoring only a few goals in the last 13 months. Absolutely, totally agree. And the striker or attacking midfielder, or one of each preferably, is surely Leicester's main focus in the transfer window. One of the other questions I've asked in my preview of this upcoming M69 derby on for foxsake.news is Coventry's form hasn't been great recently, and I've asked the question: is it a blip, or are the wheels starting to come off? Because first few months they were unstoppable. They were scoring a ridiculous amount of goals. They were miles clear at the top of the table. The gap is only 6 points now. Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to be top of the table with a 6 point gap, but so I use the word only 6 points loosely. But they haven't won yet this year. They lost in the FA Cup against Stoke. They've drawn with Charlton and they've lost to Birmingham. And they, in all of their games in December, all 6 games in December, they didn't score more than once. So it's probably, Joe, a good time to play Coventry if they're not quite in the free-flowing form that they were in a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the consistency that we don't have this season. So I've got absolutely no idea how it's going to go. We could get the win, I suppose, or they could smash us. I mean, they have done a bit of business. I've seen they got a loan for a young South Korean guy from Tottenham that really impressed me when we played. He was on loan at Portsmouth. So they've sort of strengthened. So I would be inclined to say it's a bit of a blip, because they have showed some good form. Although, I mean, you know, Frank Lampard has got a bit of history for this sort of thing. But yeah, I'm absolutely happy for that blip to go on at least till Saturday. It's particularly galling, you know, when you really hate Coventry and then they're still signing players and somehow they're at the top of the table as well. So yeah, let's go and beat them in their own backyard, please.
Tom, it'd be nice to quieten them down. I feel like they've gone a little bit quieter recently, the Coventry fans. They're not quite as in your face as they were a few months ago, but it'd be nice to contribute to their continued demise on Saturday.
Well, it's a bit hard when you got both their heads in your face at the same time. So, but look, I think from my understanding is that Victor Torp is their man that leads the line, and he's coming back for injury potentially for this game. And I think that coincides with their blip. Victor Torp is somebody that scored 7 goals and 4 assists in 19 games. So I think he's going to be a threat. Their winger Sakamoto is a hell of a player as well, and certainly one to look out for. He's going to be matched up against Luke Thomas, and well, we know how those things have gone in recent games. So I think this is still going to be a really tough game for us. I'm not going to lie. It is the best time to be playing them, but they're still a good side. I think they're kind of more or less going through the same things that we went through with Enzo, where you start strong and then you have that little bit of a wobble around the Christmas time. I don't want to be in a position where I'm defending their form. So I'm going to just say that maybe it's the case that, you know, they are they are on the skids, and we can hit them when they're down.
Let's hope so. Two more very quick orders of business for the preview, as usual. In just a second, we're going to look at players who have played for both sides. So if you're watching along live, get your thinking caps on. I can see Joe and Tom having a think right now, and then we'll finish the show with predictions. So if you have a particular prediction in terms of the scoreline and any goal scorers or patterns, anything that you think we're going to see on Saturday, do get your comments in now wherever you're watching live. So I'll give you 10 seconds or so to have a think about it there. Give me two names each if you can, starting with you, Joe, of players that have represented both clubs.
No chance. I'm rubbish at this game. There's a guy who was doing the co-commentary on Radio Leicester the other day. I can't remember his name, the defender. No, I'm rubbish at these. I've got no memory for it.
That's yeah. I'm terrible as well. I've got it on my phone in front of me. That's why I always do this one. It makes me.
I forgot about this last time I cheated and looked up.
I know anything spring to mind.
Yeah, I know one. We got Matters.
Yeah,
he's played for both.
Yeah.
James Maddison, a big one. It's a big long list, which does throw into question the element of the rivalry. I know it doesn't mean as much now, but sort of in the 90s, if you're talking about big rivalries, you wouldn't get players playing for both sides. But this list, which only starts in the Premier League era, is a very, very long one. Dion Dublin, I guess, is a fairly big name in there. For fuck's sakes, Andy Moore has come in with a very niche, gangly centre-back, Matt Heath. Yeah, that's absolutely his one.
That's who I meant. He was on Radio Leicester the other day.
Yeah. There we go, Matt Heath. Yeah, we've got... interestingly, there's far too many to go through, but Steve Walsh, according to this, it may be entirely incorrect. I have no memory of it whatsoever, but apparently played 2 games for Coventry in 2002. Maybe he went to sabotage them because his legs were gone at that point, and that maybe he just went to cause them some problems. Anyway, there's well done if you watch it along live and you got a few more than us here in the studio. Last thing then, let's start with you, Tom. Score prediction for Saturday lunchtime.
1-1.
1-1. Joe?
Yeah, it might be a draw, but let's go 2-1 to the Leicester.
You think it's going to be a draw, but your heart is telling you to go for 2-1. I like it.
Yeah, I've got to predict the win against Bob, surely.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go absolutely crazy and look at the fact that Leicester have scored in most games this season and Coventry are struggling for goals, and I'm just gonna go for the wheels to fall off for everybody, and it's gonna be a 0-0. We're gonna get back-to-back clean sheets. There we go. No goals, nothing's gonna happen. It's gonna be the most drab point you've ever seen. I'm hoping by predicting that the opposite happens, but we'll see.
Well, that was the home match, wasn't it? We went up for that. Just on Sakamoto versus Luke Thomas, I watched the whole half of that bang right in front of me, and I do not want to be watching that again, I must admit.
You're right. Only goalless draw of the season so far for Leicester came against Coventry. So let's do it again. Right. Thank you, everybody, for watching along live, or those of you that have listened or watched it back. For fox8.news, as a reminder, is our website. There's an in-depth preview article on there of 5 things to look out for from myself that's gone live today. Andy Moore asks the question on Friday morning is the M69 derby actually a thing? Does it exist? So make sure you give that a read. There's also a piece that's gone on today from Pete Selby looking at 6 months in charge for Marty Cifuentes. I've gone 34 minutes throughout the show without wishing him a happy 6-month anniversary in the job, Marty. Pete has a look at the first 6 months of his tenure at Leicester City. He's called it 6 months of holding on or something like that, which I think was very apt. So loads and loads of great content for fox8.news. Only a £5 a month to subscribe as well. So do get yourselves over there. Myself and Tom predicting a draw on Saturday. Joe's gone a little bit more ambitious and gone for a 2-1. Thanks again, everybody, for watching live. And we will see you very soon.